hard-hitting news. Alternative talk radio. Get ready, America, for Deadline Live with your host, Jack Blood. Deadline Live is a daily wrap-up for those too busy in the daily grind to discern and dissect the news. While the so-called mainstream media buries the truth, Jack Blood uncovers it, exposing the lies that our trusted government officials do not want us to know. And now, please welcome Jack Blood.
Both the lies, the disinformation, the war propaganda that your trusted government officials do not want you to know about. Welcome to this live original edition of Deadline Live. It is Tuesday, 1/11/11. I'm Jack Blood, your narrator, your radio gun, reporting for the next 2 hours. I've lined up a good show for you today. If it all goes through, we'll all be in good shape here. David Icke joining us allegedly in about 5 minutes on the broadcast. He should stay with us for the first hour. We're going to talk about the connections to him, how he might have inspired this killing, not in Arizona. He was, of course, called out big time at the point. And, so we'll get his reaction to all of that. Hold on. There's other ways to get on the air, folks. Don't call me at home. So we'll get his reaction to all of that. Also, try to get some discussion going on the story that disappeared. That is the fish and bird kills, the trail of dead. Of course, the vaccine story. That's where we left off before all of this happened on Saturday, 1/8/11. And whatever predictions he might have for 2011, potential bio attack. Anyone? You watching this as we are watching this? David Icke joining us here in just a couple of minutes. And then in the second hour, to keep the continuity going, because what was it that Gerald Lee Loner, as we call him, what was it he was talking about? Currency and Newspeak. Newspeak, of course, put together in the book 1984 by Eric Blair, George Orwell. Currency and new currencies talked about by just about all of us, and anti-Federal Reserve stuff, which you can get from some left-wing punk rock bands. So we're going to hit that, and we're going to talk about it in the second hour with Thad Lumpkin. He is one of the directors, one of the originators, the designers of this new cartoon called American Dream. Have you seen this? It is a 30-minute, very fast-moving, highly educational and funny and well-crafted video on how our money works and the history of money. They actually flash back in a DeLorean and go back through the history of money and banks here in this country. Very, very good. Great animation. I expect to see this on TV someday. That is, if they don't kill it. Oh, I'm not supposed to say that. Could inspire somebody to violence. Matt Lumpkin from American Dream joining us in the second. Dave Knight coming up right after this. Allegedly, I'm Jack Blood, your radio gun. This is Deadline Live, Broadcasting and Affiliates. Jack Blood here for DeadlineLive.info. DeadlineLive.info is a consortium of news reports, all of it free, from video to exclusive commentary. You're going to find a take you may not be hearing anywhere else right there at DeadlineLive.info. We also believe that doing business with fellow truth seekers is the key to freedom. Vote with your dollars, not for the lesser of two evils. So we have designed a way for you to get noticed within our network for pennies on the dollar. Simply go to DeadlineLive.info, look at the top right-hand side, donate a minimum of $9.11, appear on our scroller for up to 30 days. Tens of thousands of people will see your link and or shout out your favorite link at the very top of our website. It helps us, it pays for the website for our webmaster, and it funds our investigative reporting. Go to DeadlineLive.info, check it out now, get involved, and get noticed for your business. Stay bold. Well, it is great having you once again, and you get to have me and our guest today. It is 1/11/11. Deadline Live, I'm Jack Blood, your radio gun as always, metaphorically, folks. Don't go shooting out there just because I said that now. Probably one of the best books I have read in many, many years is Human Race, Get Off Your Knees, The Lion Sleeps No More. It is the new compendium, a giant book chock full of great information by one David Icke. I also had the privilege and the honor to not only meeting David in Phoenix, Arizona, the scene of the crime, but seeing the great lecture that went with this. If you ever get a chance to go see David, it's probably not what you're going to expect. Very funny, very entertaining, very fast-moving. But I'm really very happy to have David Icke, a number one thought criminal in the world, on the show with us now. Good friend of mine. David, great to hear from you.
Oh, thank you, Jack. I'm distraught here that I've been targeted by the Southern Poverty Law Center. It's like being savaged by a dead sheep. I don't know how I'll cope. I mean, the events of the last few days, mate, after this horrific shooting in Tucson, Arizona, has just shown, on one level, first of all, the kind of soulless people with no empathy, cold, callous, vindictive people who are prepared to use a horror like what happened in Tucson, involving not just a congresswoman, but 6 other dead people, including a 9-year-old girl, to use that to seek to target and discredit people they wish to discredit because they don't want them to go on informing people about what's really going on in the world. To use that horrific event for purely political and beyond political means to discredit, target people is just beyond my understanding.
It's sick and it's twisted. And David, I mean, we went through this already. I remember there was a little thing here called 9/11 where they did the exact same thing on the other side.
Exactly. I mean, you know, I was saying earlier today to someone that it's a blueprint. What you have is the event happens, and then there is the prearranged response. So on 9/11, within minutes, really, they were starting to talk about it's Bin Laden, it's Arab terrorists, and it's Al Qaeda, this CIA operation. And what you had with the guy that burned his backside on the plane above America is the immediate reaction by people like Michael Chertoff, former Homeland Security chief and co-author of the Patriot Act as a result of 9/11, who was there immediately on the networks pushing full-body scanners, which were immediately rolled out. Why? Because they were all ready to do that. And here we have a situation now where the shooting happened, and immediately the target people, there's a long list of them, were picked out to be discredited as a result of this. It's a blueprint. And what's happening now is because of the awakening, Jack, because more and more people are not buying it, there is a sense of panic and there is a sense of desperation because they have to play out this long prearranged agenda for global enslavement with an increasingly skeptical public not buying the excuses. And so they're almost ceasing to bother even with fake excuses with any substance anymore. You know, you have this guy who goes through Amsterdam airport, apparently no passport, gets on the plane, and then this device goes off, which didn't hurt anybody but himself, and bingo, out come the full-body scanners. Now, you take the full-body scanners, people are being radiated every day as they go through, and all the implications for pedophilia and all the rest of it with that technology. To say that is justified by the guy with the burning his bum device is ludicrous, but it doesn't matter to them anymore. It's a panic. Just tell them anything and roll it out. And so here we're having this extraordinary, ludicrous disparity between what actually happens, the background to the man himself, and who they're trying to discredit as a result of it. And we can expect more of this, Jack. It's going to get more and more intense because when you corner a rat, and increasingly as people wake up, that's what's happening. Yeah. Then they start to thrash out, and that's what we're seeing. So people like you and me and everyone else who's been speaking out about this, we can expect, you know, all the stuff thrown in our direction. What we have to do is be strong, keep walking, keep talking, and not let it affect us. And bingo. So many people in my life over the last 20 years have tried to discredit me. They've tried to undermine me. They've tried to do it financially. They've tried to do it by getting me involved in legal things. And then I say, where are they now? Oh, do you know, I've not heard of them for ages, and you're still going. And that's what we need to do, because this is, they're going to up the ante on this now. But because it's getting so stupid and so ludicrous and so far-fetched, it's going to have less and less effect.
Well, I mean, and I talked to William Engdahl here last week, and we were talking about this playbook getting a little dusty and that people are not falling for all of this crying wolf so much anymore, and he pretty much said it. This is just all on autopilot now. Can I play? I want to play the clip. This should only take, I'm not going to play the whole thing, but I want to play just the first minute or so. This is you being mentioned literally within hours of this shooting in Arizona. I want to preface this by saying about David Icke that I have been studying with him for 10 years, and I've become less violent along the way, which, David, I know it's your mission to try to quell violence and suffering and spread love.
Non-cooperation rather than violent response.
Exactly. Let's play a little bit of this. Keith Obamaman and Mark Potok of the Southern Poverty Law Center talking about the shooting hours after the event, getting their slime on all of us. Just a minute of this.
We are admittedly in somewhat speculative territory still here as it clarifies. However, this is one of the rare cases where a political assassin, if Loeffner is indeed guilty, has been caught alive. And whatever questions we have tonight, the gunman himself, in theory, can someday answer, although the sheriff says he has invoked his right to remain silent. Until then, let's draw on the expertise of the Southern Poverty Law Center that attracts political militancy in this country. And Mark Potok is the director of the Center's Intelligence Project. Thanks for your time tonight, sir.
Thank you for having me, Keith.
Loeffner's internet trail. Does it tell us anything about his politics? Does that specific reference to the 8th District, the Congresswoman's District, does that step out of the incoherence, or is it just part of the incoherence?
Well, you're right, that reading through all of his materials, or the materials that are purported to be his, he sounds quite mad, out of his mind. But there is a thread through the material that really seems pretty clear, and that thread has to do with seeing the government as an enemy. The books you mentioned, there's a theme that runs through all of them, in particular the Ayn Rand book, the idea of the individual against the state. But there are ideas like the idea of the only legitimate currency being backed by gold and silver. You know, that's a core idea of the radical right in this country. The idea, weirdly enough, of controlling grammar, of somehow the government using grammar to control the people, is an idea that exists on the radical right. There's a particular person, a man named David Wynn Miller, who has plugged this idea over the years. This man also talked quite a lot in these strange videos of his about what he called conscience streaming, but I think is almost certainly meant to be conscious streaming, which is an idea that also has been kind of tossed around on the radical right, in particular by a kind of British conspiracy theorist by the name of David Icke. So a lot of these ideas, his burning of the flag, his talking about the government as treasonous, and using mind control to control the rest of us and so on, these are all ideas, or kind of shards of ideas, that exist very much on the radical right.
All right, that's all I can take of that, obviously. I've got a lot of comments on that clip, but since I have David Icke with us from the radical right, go, David. I mean, what bothers me about Potok is he does look like a child molester, so it is hard to watch him and listen, but that aside.
Well, what surprised me, he was described as being, having an intelligence role with the Southern Poverty Law Center. I thought you needed intelligence to do that. Clearly, he's in the wrong job.
Well, for a robot, he's pretty intelligent. Yeah. That's artificial intelligence, David.
What we saw there, or heard there, was a series of bullet points of information and awareness that the control system does not want people to understand, does not want people to look at and see the validity of. And therefore, these are the bullet points that are given as the recognition opinions of this perceived far-right dangerous, violent, terrorist mentality that has the nerve to think that the government doesn't necessarily have people's best interests at heart. And when you look at the Southern Poverty Law Center, what you're looking at, Jack, is an element, a strand in a web that includes the Anti-Defamation League and Abe Foxman, its national director, the Simon Wiesenthal Center, the American Jewish Committee, the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, AIPAC, the biggest lobby group in America, basically, and lobby group on behalf of Israel. And every time you mention the word Israel, what you're really saying is Rothschild, because the House of Rothschild created Israel. They paid for the building of Knesset and the Illuminati symbol-infested Supreme Court building in Tel Aviv. They control the country, they own the country, and it's their fiefdom from which they go out through Mossad and other elements to manipulate the world. One of the places they go out from anyway. And it's no accident that on New Year's Day, I put it out across the net, which has gone out far and wide, I'm seeing, a major expose article called "They Dare Not Speak Its Name, Rothschild Zionism." And what this does is expose Zionism not as something that is there to benefit Jewish people. They couldn't give a damn about Jewish people. They've been using and abusing them for their own ends for centuries. Rothschild Zionism is in its play-out world, and I call it Rothschild Zionism to keep emphasizing and underpinning the real creators and controllers of it. They created it in one sense as a political philosophy, because that's what it is. If you believe in this, that, and the other, then you're a Zionist. You don't have to be Jewish to be a Zionist. It's one of the few things that Joe Biden, the vice president, has ever said that I agree with. And the core, however, of what we call Zionism, what I call Rothschild Zionism, is actually a secret society. It's a secret society created, owned, and controlled to this minute by the House of Rothschild. And so when, as I expose in the major and very long article, "They Dare Not Speak Its Name, Rothschild Zionism," when I expose the extraordinary, absolutely staggering ratio of Rothschild Zionists to positions of power around the world, not least in the United States, and also the extraordinary ratio of people who were in fundamental positions before, during, and after 9/11. It is mind-blowing when you think that the Jewish population of America is 1.7%, and a lot of those people are not Rothschild Zionists. And people don't realize, as I point out in the article, there are very significant numbers of Jewish people who vehemently oppose Zionism because of all it stands for. And so what they've done brilliantly over the years is equate in the public mind Zionism equals Jewish people. It does not. Yeah. And then having established that false belief, false perception, then they wheel out the Southern Poverty Law Center, Anti-Defamation League, Simon Wiesenthal Center, and all these other people to use that perception to target anyone who is exposing the secret society that is Rothschild Zionism.
And let me add one more thing, too, while you're on this roll, is that Comcast, as you know, has bought into MSNBC General Electric, where this clip comes from that originates all this venom against you. And they are on the board of the Simon Wiesenthal Center, the controllers of Comcast. We've had their run-ins with them in the past with free speech issues in the Northeast.
Well, what you find, Jack, when you look into this, as you well know, is you start to see amazing common connections, amazing common names and backgrounds and organizations coming up all over the place. It's what I call the blueprint. And this is not just happening now. This has been long planned. One of the major points where this manipulation of human society in terms of removing freedoms and removing freedom of expression and selling a belief system of fear about various groups came from was an organization or a group called the Frankfurt School. Now, the Frankfurt School were set up in Frankfurt, Germany, the place from where the Rothschilds' global empire was launched. And the Frankfurt School was established in 1923, and it was a gathering of Rothschild Zionist, what were called then neo-Marxist theorists, who created this social engineering, society engineering network. The Frankfurt School was funded into existence by Felix Wiel, Rothschild Zionist. First director was Karl Gunberg, Rothschild Zionist. He was followed as director by Max Horkheimer, Rothschild Zionist. The two main influences on the school's thinking were Theodor Adorno, Rothschild Zionist, and Herbert Marcuse, Rothschild Zionist. And it moved out eventually into Switzerland and then into New York in 1935. And then it moved in 1941 to California. And this was the part of the list of what it planned to do at that time to American society, indeed global society, but we're talking in America now. One, continual change to create confusion. We want change. I stand for change. The teaching of sex and homosexuality to children, the undermining of schools and teachers' authority, huge immigration to destroy national identity, the promotion of excessive drinking, emptying churches, in other words, targeting anything that brought people together and brings people together, a legal system with bias against victims of crime, dependency on the state or state benefits, control and dumbing down of the media, encouraging the breakdown of the family. That's just some of them. Now, when we look from the perspective of 2011 to that kind of ambition all those decades ago, we can see that they achieved it. And one expression of this Frankfurt School social engineering of human perception and human society is the Southern Poverty Law Center, the Anti-Defamation League, Simon Wiesenthal Center, and all these other groups. It's just another stage.
It's a goon squad with the perfect front out as a perimeter, and that is the Holocaust and Hitler and the Jews. Even though, as I've mentioned here several times this week and last week, it came to my attention that 6 million people died in the Congo in the last 10 years. That's, I guess, not a Holocaust, and they don't have a lot of front organizations in order to protect their interests. That clip had a lot of interesting things in it, and as you say, these talking points from the Southern Poverty Law Center directed against you and me, indirectly, because I'm connected to you, and we talk about currency, we talk about newspeak. But some of the things he said, he mentions Ayn Rand and says, that brings out this idea that anti-collectivism is bad somehow, and individualism is bad, and Ron Paul is bad, of course. I mean, this shows you kind of who benefits from this. Of course, also, well, these people think the government is their enemy. When I'm reading the Constitution, it pretty much says the same thing. If you want to take it to that level. Again, talking about grammar and newspeak, that, of course, being pointed out, rightly or wrongly, certainly wrongly with a lot of bullets and innocent people, by Jared Lee Lohner, as we call him. So you have all of this, and it all just comes pouring out like verbal diarrhea.
It's so blatant and pathetic to anyone that has any conception of actually what's going on. What they've done and what they seek to do more powerfully, and this is why the awakening is so desperately dangerous to them, and they know it, is they've sought to build a bubble around human perception that holds it in a tiny, tiny range of possibility or sense of possibility. So anyone that then comes along and threatens to burst that bubble by providing information to get people or give people the opportunity to look at life themselves and society they live in a different way, look at it from a different angle and come to different conclusions, is extremely dangerous, fundamentally dangerous to that Orwellian global fascist dictatorship that they wish to impose. And thus, pathetically, blatantly, to anyone with a brain cell on active duty, they list all the dangerous information, or a lot of it anyway, and then dub that as the profile, the personality profile of these monsters they're seeking to manifest. It's so blatantly bloody obvious. And what's also staggering to me and
well, hold on to that,
sickening.
because it is a lot of this is staggering. David Icke is with us, davidicke.com, ICKE. New book is amazing. Human Race, Get Off Your Knees. I've got about 20% of it dog-eared, and the rest will be soon. Does the Fed benefit from killers equaling talking about currency? David Icke will be right back with us. Deadline Live right after this. First, we take Manhattan. Great Leonard Cohen song there. Well, that's exactly what they did. There was also, as we've noted here on this show, well, like it or not, I'm not trying to come to any conclusions, but I just wanted to point out there are a lot of 9/11s in this shooting, which some would say might be a calling card. David Icke has been so kind to join us here in the first hour. In the second hour today, the makers of this viral new cartoon about the Federal Reserve here on Hamilton's birthday. Take that, Alexander. The filmmakers of the American Dream cartoon will be with us in the second hour of the show today. David Icke is with us. This new book is fantastic. Human Race, Get Off Your Knees. The Lion Sleeps No More. Cost you $20. It'll be the best $35 you've ever spent. It's got all history in there and some really fun stuff to read, too, about the moon and other things that David has been researching. Please do yourself a favor. Don't go to the movie this week. Buy this book. You'll be glad that you did. David, so much to get to here. You know, part of this whole thing about the coals being thrown on the fire left and right, again, that's coming out of all of this. The anti-rhetoric. It's no rhetoric, but then they're using rhetoric, as we just heard from Mark Potok and Keith Obamaman. And again, here is the left and the right being forced at each other's throats, even when they have every desire to join together to stop things like the Federal Reserve, which plays into all of this once again.
Well, when you look at the target population in terms of numbers, Jack, and then you look at the numbers of that which is seeking to control the target population, then the difference is just staggering. I mean, it's fantastic. Therefore, that which is seeking to manipulate and impose itself must divide and rule the target population. It must. It can't, and it also must recruit from the target population in terms of enforcement, those which will enforce the imposition of the few on the target population, which most of the enforcers actually are part of, and whose children and grandchildren will have to live in if we allow it to happen. So it's the manipulation of the target population and the divide and rule of it that is absolutely foundation bottom line to what they're trying to do. And thus they have to, first of all, create the perception of left and right. I mean, they created the perception of one polarity being fascism and one polarity being communism. Well, I think if you asked people under both of those regimes, they wouldn't really see much difference, except in this, that, and the other. It's still a centralized dictatorship of the few imposing its will by force on the many. Never mind what name it is, but because of that, we see different things when actually what they are, as I said in a book many years ago, opposames. They're different names for the same thing, but they are brilliant for creating the perception of difference, the perception of choice, therefore divide and rule.
I love that term, opposames, folks. That is, I've used that before, and I had to credit you for that. I'm sure I thought of it sometime first, and you got it from me, David. But no, just
it doesn't matter.
But here's the thing. I talk about opposames. We have two cousins, one Sarah Palin and cousin Barry Obama. They're cousins. It's admitted in the mainstream media. And, David, you've covered this extensively, this bloodline thing, ruling elite. So by demonizing cousin Sarah, they actually boost her base and continue to divide and rule here in the country. I mean, they couldn't have engineered any of this any better if they had planned it for years.
No, and what people need to do, I would suggest, is just look at the hypocrisy and look at the doublespeak that goes on. The great example you mentioned a few minutes ago is that one side is saying about the violent rhetoric of one side, and the side saying that is doing the same about the side they're accusing of it. But so you have to kind of filter it in a calm way so that you can see all these things going on with not sides doing different things, but different groups on the same sides, basically doing the same thing. A wonderful example of this hypocrisy and this doublespeak is the fact that Obama and all these moralizing renter quotes that we've been seeing in the last few days since this horrific shooting can't find a bloody microphone quick enough to condemn this very strange and deranged man doing what he did. But my goodness me, that you'll never hear them say a word because it's all about, it's violence. We can't have violence in America. We can't have violence and all this stuff. We must do this. We must take your freedoms away to stop this violence. And yet, where are they when we're looking at the mass murder of civilians in Iraq, Afghanistan, Pakistan, year after year, month after month, where American taxpayers' money is being used to advance the systematic genocide day by day of the Palestinian people in that part of the world. Not a word said about that, but all the moralizing is about, it's like, people moralize about 9/11. Oh, 3,000 people died. Well, yes, and it was terrible. It was horrific. But about 1 million people have been killed and maimed in Iraq alone as a result of that war over all these years. Never mind these other countries. And it's that this hypocrisy in some ways.
Yeah, they're the killers. They're mass murderers and genocidal maniacs, and they're pointing the finger at me and you going, oh, what you're saying could cause violence.
Exactly. And that's what we need to see, and that's what we need to expose. This simple, massive hypocrisy between that which will support mass murder and genocide, but then gets on its high horse pointing its finger at something like a shooting. Terrible as it was. 6 people dead and terrible injuries to the congresswoman. Yes, terrible. Should not have happened. Rightly condemned. But hundreds of thousands of people, millions of people killed around the world as a result of British and American government and military actions. Not a bloody word.
Well, and it's business as usual, so to speak. What about this? Every incident we have had in this country, as long as I've been really paying attention, at least for the last 10 years, and especially under cousin Barry Obama for the last few years, have been an FBI sting operation. Non-attack attacks, bombs going off that don't really go off. We're to believe that, every situation, the Times Square bomber, the Christmas tree bomber, the underpants bomber, the shoe bomber, every single one of them are too incompetent to make an actual bomb. All right, I'll accept that on face value. But if everything is a sting operation, then why shouldn't we be looking at this? As MK Ultra sting operation? We're getting more details about the parents. The mom is a bureaucrat somehow. She is Jewish, by the way, as was the victim in all of this. This again, cost-benefit analysis, David, because the judge was getting tough on drugs and drug smuggling. That cuts into Poppy Bush's business and the usual suspects. The dad of this shooter, a mess by all accounts, and had some horrible thing happen to him. He's shut down absolutely, completely. As you know, that is the bridge to mind control. You've got the shooter talking about mind control constantly, using this thing called lucid dreaming / remote viewing and all of this. You got to at least go into that possibility, don't we?
Yes, of course we do. And we must not be cowered into not doing so by these idiots like Potok or Botox, whatever his bloody name is, from this Southern Poverty Law Center. He must use Botox to keep a straight bloody face, some of the rubbish he talks, and must know it's rubbish. We need to do that. And the reason, of course, because the reason there's so many sting operations, as you rightly say, is because if you are engineering events in society, violent events, unpleasant events that you can then use as the excuse, problem, reaction, solution to change society in the image you want and suppress freedom of speech and shut people up and close down freedom on the internet and all the rest of it, if those events are not happening naturally in the number you need, and of course they're not, then you have to create them. It's as simple as that. For instance, what about this for a coincidence? Security at the World Trade Center and those airports was created or run by a company owned by Kroll Associates. and another one called ICTS International. And the ICTS International run the security at the Paris airport where Richard Reed, the shoe bomber, got on. They run the security at Amsterdam airport where the underpants bomber got on.
Yeah, I mean, you've done whole shows on AIG and Maurice Steenberg.
I think that's the pattern here.
Yeah, I got to go to break, but that is a great place for people to start new researches in Kroll and a movie. That's it. When I remember David Icke with us, davidicke.com. We'll be right back. One more segment with David. Stay with us, Deadline Live. Well, you should know, if you don't already, that David Icke opens his actual speaking tour, which is mind-blowing, to that song. That's Muse, Uprising. I'm sure partially inspired by my friend David Icke, who joins us on the show today. I'm sure you heard, and you can go back, flip back through this first hour. You'll hear David discussing the accusations that he might in some way been responsible. Those of us who, tell the truth, might be responsible for what happened in Arizona here over the weekend. And, I'd just like to add this, my former self, I was a bit of a nihilist, okay? I came out of it thanks to people like David Icke, and I did, and I think that if we could have gotten to this Jared Lee Loner, we could have helped him. We could have saved him, and we could have taken him out of that. I heard, another blowhard radio show host today. Some of you know who I'm talking about. And he was blaming this on atheism and Marilyn Manson, which is a satire if you didn't know it. World Net Daily today blaming this on Anti-Flag, a anti-government anarchist left-wing band that we play on this show every once in a while. I guess they don't like the music either that we listen to, David, especially Muse, The Resistance, which I love because it's always playing in sports stadiums where people really need to hear this.
Yeah, well, I know from my own experience, because, I went on a group of events, starting in London on September the 11th. It wasn't our choice, it's the way it fell. And then into New York and San Francisco and Lisbon, Portugal and Barcelona, Spain, and then on to Amsterdam, in the Netherlands. And I've been doing this for a long time. Something had shifted onto another level in that period. There was just a new energy, a new awareness. The numbers coming were amazing. The spectrum of society, old and young, of age, of background was fantastic. And therefore, and just add one other thing, and one of the other things I'm finding, is more and more musicians are getting involved in this information. It's starting to really become a theme, a power within many areas of music. When I was in New York, the hip-hop community, I learned, were massively into this stuff and are making music about it. But other people are coming in now. I won't say the names because I don't know if they want people to know, but other names that people would big time know who are into this information now and want to do something about it. And therefore, it's like the control system is faced with a dike that is springing leaks. That dike is human perception. And as it springs leaks, they're trying to put more and more fingers in the holes, and they're running out of fingers. And as they do that, they're becoming more desperate, and therefore they become more stupid. And also, they make more mistakes. So
we have to bring Janet Napolitano into all of this, David Icke, but you're right. They're running out of fingers for the dikes, and that is a problem, so they've got to have less holes somehow, and that, of course, would bring us something I want to ask you about in a second, the bird and fish deaths and the deaths of chemical, biological, top-secret clearance guys who are found in garbage dumps. There is a trail of dead here. Let me just ask you one more thing about this, and we've got about 7 minutes on the show today with David. DavidIcke.com. Again, I really want to make sure you guys get this book.
Human Race, Get Off Your Knees, The Lion Sleeps No More. There is some stuff in there that's going to challenge your open mind, but a lot of it is just great historical truths and perception by David Icke. Human Race, Get Off Your Knees. It's a big book, and there's lots of artwork and pictures in it. It's about $35 US. Please go get it, davidicke.com, or get it anywhere they sell books, like our friend at bravenewbookstores.com. I got to ask you this. So there is an interesting development in all of this. This is the first shooter who lived. They never, and I heard somebody had taken a shot like they were supposed to take him out, but somehow this guy's still alive, which is really bizarre. Do you think there's going to be a trial here at all? Is this all going to come out for the American people in a big kind of a OJ super trial, or is this guy getting Jack Ruby?
Well, you know, I don't know what the law is in America, but they can take someone out of the system in this country if they show them to be mentally ill and mentally deranged. So I'm sure that unless they've got something set up to make it a show trial to advance the kind of things they're trying to get people to believe now, I don't think they'll want him to come to trial at all.
No. And what's interesting about Arizona is you serve concurrently. If they judge you insane, you stay in the insane asylum where you'll be getting shock therapy and more mind control and everything else. I guess they can let him out to be a new killer, but the law there is then you've got to serve your life sentence, your jail sentence, or whatever verdict is brought down, which will be death for this guy eventually. So he ain't ever seeing the light of day. That's one thing, and maybe I guess that's a good thing at this point. But I'd sure like to get full disclosure in a trial. I think most Americans would want that as well. Let's ask you, in the middle of all of this, there were birds dying all over the world and fish dying all over the world. And then, as I mentioned, Jack Wheeler would work for 3 presidents as a chemical warfare, biological warfare specialist. He's dead all of a sudden. You've got a bunch of other people dying left and right connected to the government. Of course, as we know, these biological guys are dying. It's not, you don't live very long doing that job.
That we've had amazing numbers of those people in Britain over the years who've been taken out.
Dr. Dave Kelly, the most prolific of those.
Loads and loads before them. People who did strange things, like they were involved in like cutting edge stuff in the biological area. And then one guy, he's in the middle of his dinner or something in London. Stands up, gets in his car, drives to Bristol, which is like 2-3 hours away, where he has no connections, walks on top of a very famous bridge called the Clifton Suspension Bridge, which is incredibly high over a ravine, and jumps off. And there were many things that happened like that, and the numbers are incredible when you go across the years, because here we have a system, a control system that has to develop certain things for its own ends, but then it has to remove the trail that can show that this was done for those ends. And this is why, and I hope some people are listening here that are in that area, because, and I've talked to many scientists and
just save yourselves
on the inside, who don't want to be on the inside, but for various reasons are forced to be, who tell you this same story. They use you until your knowledge can serve them no more, and then they take you out so you cannot tell anybody what you've been involved in. And this is why they're all being taken out.
Well, and Hank Gabarelli, the real story about Frank Olson, folks, get that book. And there's a second one coming out, and Hank will be back with us next week to talk about this dead bird thing. So what was your analysis of this? We had a bunch of speculation on why birds were dying all over the world instantly. The government told us that everything's perfectly wonderful and it's all natural. What were you getting out of it? What were your conclusions?
Well, I mean, it's certainly not natural. I mean, I've lived 58 years, and if it was natural, it would happen more often. But it wasn't just that, of course, Jack. It was birds falling out of the air in vast numbers, not just in one location, but many. It was large numbers of sea life, like crabs. It was large numbers of fish in other areas of the world that just died en masse. We're seeing more and more strange things happening in Europe, in European oceans, to the same species that one after the other, the same thing is happening to them. So there is a pattern here, and of course, you know, you can't sit here and say, well, it's this, because I'm the the guru sitting on the mountain and I know it all, but it has the feeling of some kind of electromagnetic, harp-type, vibrational broadcast that is a common theme that's taking these things out.
It changed the frequency, disoriented these animals, and I guess we're next.
Yeah, and you know, it's not only animals that they're attempting to disorientate us. You know, as I say in the new book, and I'm absolutely convinced of this, one of the major reasons for HARP, although there are multi levels of it, and other technologies we don't know about, is actually to create a sub-reality in this level of the Earth's atmosphere that we all live in, which basically is going to feed us, first of all, vibrational and...
I'll keep you for just 5 more minutes, because I do have a guest in the second hour. I know you got to go. It's getting late over there in the UK, but I wanted you to finish this, what you were just about to say, because it's very important. Hold on to that thought. We'll be back on the other side of this second hour starts, and our guest, the filmmakers of this great cartoon, The American Dream, will join us. It's going totally viral on the internet. Deadline Live, Oracle Broadcasting and Affiliates. We'll be right back. David Icke with us. We are locked and loaded for the Propaganda War. Second hour coming your way. It is Tuesday, the 11th day of the first month in the 2011th year. I'm Jack Blood, your narrator, your radio gun, reporting Oracle Broadcasting and Affiliates, DeadlineLive.info. David Icke has been our guest the entire first hour. Kept him for a few more minutes because I want to end on a positive note here. David, thanks again for joining us. Your great book, Human...
Pleasure, mate.
Get off your knees. The Lion Sleeps No More. We are the lion. We are awake. Lucid dreaming, I guess, controlling your own reality, that brought up in this shooting. That's evil now, but that's very important to understand here.
Well, the important thing to understand is that we are multi-level, multi-dimensional beings, and what we call the conscious mind that we perceive reality with as a matter of course is only one tiny level of our multi-level self-consciousness and potential perception. And as I've been writing and talking about for a long time now, and go into it big time in that new book, is the foundation of the conspiracy. We see the things like happen in Arizona. We see the banking scams and the political scams and the engineered wars. But they're all play-out levels of something, which is to isolate humanity in the 5 senses, in the conscious mind. So we do not access that great infinite level of awareness and conscious potentiality that is there beyond the conscious 5-sense level of perception. And this is why, Jack, that they're now starting to focus fear and condemnation upon anyone that's talking about this and other levels of awareness and dreams and what you can get from dreams. I mean, personally, my dreams in the last kind of few months, particularly last few weeks and particularly last few days, have got so incredibly lucid. I wake up and I look at the empty bedroom and I'm shocked that I've awoken from it because it's so real. And when you get that level of lucid reality in a dream, you then start to understand the very strong evidence that this conscious reality is also just another dream in its own way. But they don't want us to know that because that starts to tease and expand the mind, the consciousness, and you start to see things you couldn't see before. They want us to think that the 5-sense level of reality is all there is because they want us locked into that because that's the stadium that they are manipulating and they control.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Well, David, I greatly, again, appreciate you being on. And, yeah, I'm not tearing David up. I'm not here to grill him and put him under the hot lights. He's our friend and a very busy guy, and I appreciate you joining us. I think we could have learned a lot in that first hour. The trolls didn't like it, David. DavidIcke.com. Human race, get off your knees. There he goes. Thank you, David. That's the. I'll talk to you real soon.
Thanks, mate. Bye.
All right, folks, be right back with Thad Lumpkin. He is the creator of American Dream. It is a cartoon going viral about the Federal Reserve. Stay with us.